Welcome to International Securities Exchange's podcast series. Facilitated by renowned educators, ISE podcasts are intended to teach beginning as well as seasoned investors the ins and outs of trading. To find an updated list of podcasts, please visit www.ise.com/podcasts. Please be sure to listen to our important message following this episode regarding the risks of investing in exchange-traded options.
Tony, it's Steve.
Yes.
I have a question about, I guess, the levels that you look for using Fibonacci. Could you go back to that chart with the Canadian dollar? I thought it was interesting. I'm not sure where that was, but
Yes, hold on just a second.
and it looks like I think it was U.S. dollar Canadian.
Okay, hold on just a second, guys. Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I had to switch phones there fast. Okay, going back to the, let's see.
Yeah, there, that one. No.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Well, the next slide, the one you just showed. I guess the one. Yeah. I thought It's very interesting that I guess you're projecting. It got right to your projection point there. It traded up to 130, and then it seemed like I guess it's off a bit from there. What would you do at that point, Tony? So you're looking for 130. You know, maybe you're long it at that point. Would you reverse around and sell the calls that you had and quite possibly buy a put, or would you wait for some confirmation and then, of course, then it's going to be a little more expensive to be buying a put as the dollar sells off a bit? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, your question is with that move into that 130 there, where it's the 138.2% retracement, what do I do? Usually what I'm doing is I'm going ahead and exiting most of my position, but I won't typically reverse a move with that type of momentum into a resistance zone.
Excuse me, your sound's breaking pretty badly.
Okay, hold on just a second.
Okay.
Let me see if I can clear this up a little bit. Okay, is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, so usually what I will do is that heading into that zone, I'm looking to take my gains, but because of how sharp that momentum was into that resistance level, I'm not typically going to want to take a reversal off of that zone unless I have something on like a smaller time frame. I mean, in this case, you'd have to be dropping down to like intraday time frames where maybe you get a shift in momentum on like a 5-minute chart or something like that, because when you have such a sharp momentum move to the upside like that, even if you do happen to get a fast retracement, a lot of times it will fall into a congestion move, and sometimes it can be more difficult to determine whether it's just going to stall there and then just kind of creep higher. So the momentum on the upside stalls, but it's not the end of the upside move, meaning it can break still to new highs. It just begins to form a slower, more rounded high. So let me show you that on the chart here.
Okay.
So instead of really reversing sharply off of that high, it pulls back just a little bit and then just kind of continues to creep higher in a narrow trading channel with a lot more overlap. So there's not really a good way to say, well, is this just going to be the end of the best momentum of that move, or is it going to be the complete end of the trend? And I usually try to avoid reversal patterns when the momentum is this sharp unless that momentum shift takes place.
Okay. Thank you. That's a great answer.
You're welcome. Are there any other questions?
I have one other one, Tony. Do you use different time patterns? Would you use, I mean, this one's really interesting. I like long-term personally. So, I mean, this chart seems like you have many, many years. Would you use, you know, a monthly chart, a weekly chart, a daily chart, or, you know, even intraday? I don't know. You know, do you actually look at varying time periods for you to make your ultimate selections?
Yeah, your question has to deal with what time frames am I utilizing. Like I said earlier, I prefer to trade longer term on the currencies. So My main time frames that I'm looking at are the weekly time frames. And then I'll drop down and use the daily for timing my entries. And I'll go up to the monthly to help identify the larger support and resistance levels. So whatever time frame I find a setup on, I will go down to the next time frame smaller for timing my entries and usually my exits as well. But I use the larger time frames for helping identify the target levels and places where I'm going to start dropping down to those smaller time frames.
That makes sense.
One of the
Toni,
problems
you see the comment from, where is it? Let me just go up. Mike says, another great webinar. Please do another one. So it was a great webinar, Toni.
Well,
Do you see any other questions? I'm not trying to rush you off. We have plenty of time. If you see a question or two, please answer it. Again, I just want to say thank you. But if you see other questions, feel free to answer them.
One question is like the difference in terms of trading options versus equities. The FX options like equity options. This is your forte here, Steve. Do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, they're so much similar. I mean, the one thing is these are cash settled, so I think they're even easier to understand because when you're trading, and I like to say, for lack of a better term or whatever, you're trading IBM options. You're going to control IBM. If you don't do anything and your option is in the money, you're going to buy or sell IBM. Well, in this case, you're not going to take control of the Canadian dollar. You will just have it being settled into cash. But other than that, they're very, very, very much similar to equity options. If you think the U.S. dollar is going to be rallying, then you'd be buying a call. If you think the U.S. dollar is going to sell off, you'd be buying a put. You can trade spreads. You can do just about every strategy that you do in equity options. So other than that, that's a great question. You can go to the ISC website and learn more about it. But they're very, very straightforward.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. To find more podcasts on options, stocks, alternative markets, and market data, please visit www.isc.com/podcasts.